Today's presentation is titled Finding Strengths Through Tragedy. We are joined by Assistant Professor in the College of Nursing, Dr. Tara O'Brien. She'll be guiding you through an inspiring journey towards maintaining wellness and resilience, even when life presents in most daunting challenges. With personal insights and professional expertise as a seasoned nurse, Dr. O'Brien will share some of her remarkable story of survival amidst adversities. Please help me welcome Dr. O'Brien.
Hey, everybody. It's great to be with you this afternoon. Let me just share my screen here. Just take me just a second. Okay, one more second here. Let me move this. Again, thank you everyone for having me today. I'm Tara O'Brien, and I'm here to talk to you about my story that I've titled Finding Strength During Tragedy. So the objective today for my presentation is to describe my journey to build resiliency after a life-changing event. First, I would like to introduce myself. So I'm Tara O'Brien. I teach at the College of Nursing here at Ohio State, and I've been teaching here for 6 years. I'm also the co-director of our new Doctorate of Nursing Education program. In my life, the most important items to me are God, my family, my friends, and my nursing students. My nursing students bring me the most joy. And these are a few pictures of my nursing students over the years that have brought me so much happiness with their awesome work that they have done with improving patient lives. I'm so very proud to have been a part of their lives and to help them to achieve their dreams of becoming a nurse or an advanced practice nurse. So in addition to my professional life, I'm going to share today some personal stories about my personal life, which I hope for some of you that might be experiencing some sort of traumatic event, that you might be able to take some aspect of my story to help strengthen you during your time of your life-changing event. So my story starts out that I live in Southwest Florida on Fort Myers Beach. And this is a picture that was taken a few years ago of Southwest Florida. And I actually live in this area, this section here, if you can see my mouse, over the south end of the island. And actually this brown roof is my house. So this is a picture of when I first bought my home in 2019. And the joke in our community is that we are the house with all the Ohio State signs in the yard. Most days we enjoy being outside rooting on our Ohio sports teams. And my dog, Max, he also knows all of the cheers for his Ohio teams. So life was pretty near perfect until September 28th, 2022. And this is when I first experienced my first hurricane. So this picture on the right is the first picture that I showed you of the beautiful Fort Myers Beach coastline. The picture on the left is an actual picture that I took a couple months ago from my commercial flight. You can see the total devastation in our community after the hurricane. You can see this is my neighborhood here, and you can see the total devastation in my neighborhood and how many of the homes are now gone. So the origins of Ian can be traced back to a robust tropical wave that moved off of the west coast of Africa from September 14th to September 15th. September 14th is actually my birthday. Ian strengthened to a Category 4 storm as it made landfall on the west of Fort Myers, Florida on September 28th, 2022. In this hurricane, we experienced, in my neighborhood, we experienced a 15-foot storm surge, and we also had winds of 155 miles per hour. Hurricane Ian was the second deadliest storm to strike the continental U.S. This century, behind Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Ian is responsible for at least 156 deaths. The cause of deaths were drowning, lack of access to timely medical care, trip and fall during power outages, cardiac events, carbon monoxide poisoning, suicide, and accidents related to the storm cleanup. The fatalities ranged in age from 6 to 101 years. This is a picture of the storm surge that we experienced. My husband and I stayed on the island during the hurricane, and we were able to survive in a neighbor's house. This is actual camera footage of what we witnessed during the storm. And you can see that by these pictures, by 3 p.m., this was the highest of the storm surge. If you'll take note in the very first picture, where you see a pink house, if you look at the picture at 5:03, you'll see that that pink house is no longer there. There were actually 2 people that were living in the house and that were in that house during the time that this footage took place. So they were there through the storm. And they were there with their 2 dogs. I'm happy to report that they were able to get out of the house, but they had to swim out of one of the windows in the home as the home was being swept off of its foundation. And they were able to survive by swimming to a palm tree and tying the dogs onto their life vest, and then they cling to those palm trees for several hours. One thing that I should point out is that this water was not warm, that it was very cold, and many people suffered from hypothermia. So the immediate effects of Hurricane Ian on Fort Myers Beach, there was an estimated 900 structures that were totally destroyed, and 2,200 were damaged. In Lee County, that's the county that where Fort Myers Beach and Sanibel and Bonita Springs, that many of you are familiar with, is located. So in Lee County, at least 52,514 structures were impacted, and of which 5,369 were destroyed, and 14,245 received major damage. So bridges and roadways were also severely damaged and destroyed. This is a picture of what we could see happening in our neighborhood from my neighbor's house that we survived in on that day. So when I looked out the window and I saw this, I knew that we had lost everything that we owned, except for the clothes that were on our back and a few items that we had packed. The next few pictures are pictures of my house a few days after the storm. The picture on the left is my house a few days after the storm, and the picture on the right is the original picture I showed you when we first bought the house. Most of the houses in my neighborhood were completely gone, or if they were still there, there were no windows, there were no doors. The debris was everywhere. There was a lot of debris in my yard that didn't even belong to me. Most of my furniture and my clothes were sucked out of our house through the windows and the doors, and we lost our vehicles. Everyone on the island lost their vehicles, and our vehicles were actually floating in the Gulf of Mexico. This is a picture of my kitchen. On the left is before the storm, and the one on the right is after the storm. So you can see that the water was so forceful that it blew out the walls and literally moved our appliances into the middle of the floor. We had 6 to 7 feet of water in our home. This is another view of our kitchen, and my joke about the kitchen is that I spent hours a day before cleaning out the refrigerator because I was concerned that we were going to lose electricity and the refrigerator would then smell bad. A side note is that I bought this refrigerator in 2021 for $1,800, and after the storm, I tried to replace the refrigerator, and it was nearly $5,000. So needless to say, I did not get that refrigerator. However, this is an example of the items that everyone in my community had to replace, and that these items were twice as expensive as what they were the year before. So with no insurance, or the lack of insurance, it added to the stress of replacing these items after the storm. This is a picture of my office, and this is where I teach most days. The picture on the left was before the storm, and then the picture on the right is after the storm. It's interesting that those monitors, though, however, stayed intact. This picture I placed for those of you that might be Bengals fans. This picture is a picture of my laundry room, and that's my coffee table in the laundry room. For those of you that are Bengals fan, if you look real close, what is one thing that you might notice in this photo? Well, for those of you that noticed Joe Burrow #9 sticker, yes, it survived a Cat 4 hurricane with 15-foot storm surge. And that sticker is only being held up by a push pin. I guess it's just an example of how strong Joe really is. My husband, he tore out every wall in our home. Every wall had to be tore down to the studs. Anything that was left in our house had to be destroyed because of mold growth. Many of my neighbors were not able to rebuild back their home according to FEMA, so their homes were torn down. This is my next door neighbor's home. There were cars and boats displaced for months after the storm. These are actually cars and boats that are on my street. So after the storm, I think one memory I'll never forget is the debris and the smell of the mold. The debris lined the streets for months, which were basically all of our possessions that belonged to everyone living in our community. This slide is probably the hardest slide for me, but brings me so much joy. This is a picture of my dog, Max. Since 2020, he has taught class with me every day. In fact, he knew the words, "Let's go to work." And many times he would even bark at me because he wanted to go to work and he wanted to go in my office. I would try to remind him, "Max, it's Saturday evening and it's not time for mom to go to work." The storm occurred on September 28th and Max died on October 1st due to injuries that he suffered after the storm. I guess I can officially say I'm a survivor. In 2019, I just survived breast cancer. Since surviving breast cancer, I have noted that many people along the way have helped to save me. In 2019, the healthcare providers at the James Cancer Center helped me to survive breast cancer. And after the hurricane in 2022, there were multiple military, firefighters, police officers, and Florida wildlife officers that assisted us and helped us to rescue us. These are a few of the firemen from Davie County, Florida that helped to save us and rescue us off the island on October 3rd, 6 days after the storm. The picture on the left is a picture of a guy named Sal. Sal's from Miami, and Sal would check on us every day after the storm. He also assisted us off the island in what's called a swamp buggy. And you'll see the picture at the top of the swamp buggy. And that's my husband, and he's putting the last few bags that we own onto the swamp buggy. Once Sal took us off the island, we crossed the bridge. We were on our own to find a new place to live and to begin the journey of healing after the storm and rebuilding our lives. These are a few pictures of what it was like to rebuild our lives after the hurricane. So even though we had to find an apartment to live in, we had to go back to the island each day to rebuild our house. During that time, we had multiple political figures that visited the island, which made promises to help rebuild our community. You'll notice the red band in the top left-hand corner. This is an actual picture of the red wristband that we were required to wear. We were not allowed to take it off. We were not permitted back on the island if we did not have this red wristband. So my husband and I wore this red wristband for 3 months. A couple weeks after the hurricane, there were food pantries that were put in place for us to receive cleaning items and food to eat, as there were no gas stations, no grocery stores, no restaurants to buy food. The Red Cross, the picture that you see here in the middle, they were instrumental during this time, in which they would drive down our street with a van and they would hand us a hot meal each day and provide us with water. It truly was the highlight of our day. There were also long lines to stand in to try to get FEMA assistance, which were very difficult, and many people were unable to get FEMA assistance, which caused more anxiety. I would be in these FEMA lines somewhere between 3 and 5 hours, and I would do this 2 to 3 times a week. I would hear multiple stories of how people survived the hurricane and the aftermath that they were living through. In addition to being in those long lines, I would spend hours each day on the phone with FEMA trying to figure out what paperwork I needed to complete for assistance. And I will say that I'm a person that has submitted multiple R01 grants, so I'm somewhat familiar with government documents. And it's interesting that for FEMA, it was the same database that very similar to what we use for ERA Commons. So for those of you that are familiar with submitting NIH grants. So you know that many people are not used to these types of forms or databases. So this caused much more frustration and anxiety for people that were trying to apply for the FEMA assistance. This is an actual picture after the storm of people living in other places that would come in to our community, and they would try to steal items that were basically left in the rubble. They would try to find valuables. So therefore, the law enforcement had to set up multiple checkpoints that we would have to go through each day. And when we would travel, we would have to bring identification to confirm that we were actual residents. However, I'm very grateful for the law enforcement during that time period that they helped to protect us. So in the next few slides, I'm going to talk to you about my resiliency journey since the hurricane. The process of building resiliency involves going through some various steps. And for me personally, shock and denial was the first step. And for me, this was, how could this happen to us? We may have to move. We may never have a place to live. And then the emotional roller coaster of going through the emotions of fear, anger, sadness, and anxiety. I would be happy, then I would be sad. I would be sad over the loss of my dog, all my clothes, all of my pictures, my dishes. I would walk into a store and it would just trigger memories, and I would see reminders of the past. I will say, though, that the step of adapting and coping, for me personally, my personal faith helped me to adapt and to developing coping skills that helped me to develop a positive outlook. So this is what 1 year later, what life is like living on Fort Myers Beach. This is a picture of my husband and I, and this is where a sign used to be that said, "Welcome to Fort Myers Beach." And this sign is on the south end as you pass over the bridge from Lover's Key. These are actual pictures that I just took a few days ago. And so this picture here is in the top left-hand corner is a picture of a restaurant. This picture in the middle is my church. This is a Presbyterian church on the island. You can see there's not much left of it. And then the picture on the right is our CVS pharmacy. This is our only pharmacy that we have on the island. We're hoping that it's going to be open by the end of December. We have one grocery store. That grocery store was closed for many, many months. In fact, you'll see all the cars here. Before the storm, many people took their car and parked it in the parking lot of Public because it's one of the higher points on the island. But unfortunately, that didn't help matters. I am happy to report that Public did reopen May 31st. So we do have a grocery store now, and it's beautiful. This picture, the next picture next to Public is a bank. After the bank is our hardware store. And the next picture you'll see are street signs. So we have no street signs left. And many members of the community, we've each made our own street sign to post at the end of our streets. And the last picture that you'll see is our post office. We lost our post office. We all lost our mailboxes, and we lost all the mail trucks that delivered the mail. And so for months after the hurricane, we had to travel to the airport to get our mail, which again was a difficult situation. But I'm happy to report again that we have a small trailer in the back of that post office where we're able to get mail now. And we have a few mail trucks that's delivering mail on the island. So coping strategies, as a registered nurse for nearly 30 years and an academic nurse educator for nearly 18 years, coping strategies are something that I know and I understand and I teach my students. But when you have gone through a tragedy or a life-changing event, it's not something that automatically kicks in. So these are a few strategies that I used, and perhaps it might work for you. And just remember that building resiliency involves the ability to adapt and to bounce back from challenging situations, stress, or adversity. So the first coping strategy that I used was developing a strong support system. So I developed a strong support system with my friends and my community and my colleagues here at Ohio State. And for me, just talking during this time period and talking about what I was going through was very helpful for me coping with this situation. And then fostering a growth mindset. Interestingly enough, a year before, I was selected to participate in the Southern Nurses Research Society Leadership Academy, and we had to read a book about growth mindset. I often would reflect upon this book and about the challenges and the obstacles that we were going through. And I would think about how we were going to come out of this situation personally and as a community, and how we were going to come out in the end so much stronger. Then just, learn how to analyze your problems, try to set goals for yourself, try to develop effective strategies for overcoming obstacles, break down large challenges into smaller challenges, perhaps more manageable steps. Think about developing healthy coping mechanisms for managing stress, difficult emotions such as meditation, deep breathing, and exercise. And then reflect on previous challenges and how you managed to overcome those before. Use those lessons learned to build those to build your own personal resiliency for future hardships. Just remember that building resiliency is an ongoing process. It takes practice, it takes time, and it's essential to be patient with yourself. Don't hesitate to reach out to professionals such as therapists or counselors if you're struggling with your mental health or facing significant challenges. In addition to the coping strategies, it's important that after you've experienced such as an event as I went through, that you reflect upon lessons learned. And I think the biggest lesson learned, and I've been told this, but now I've lived the experience, is that life is a gift. And you never know in what instance or what second it's over. So therefore, embrace the positive memories. There will be negative times in your life. And those negative memories, try to learn from those memories or those events and think about how it's preparing you for the next challenge in life. So in summary, emotional and psychological resilience in the face of a natural disaster involves a complex interplay of individual, social, and community level factors. Adapting coping strategies and social support networks, sense of meaning and purpose contribute to your ability to bounce back and to be able to rebuild your life after a traumatic event. So in closing, so many times I get people that ask me, were you able to rebuild your home? I'm happy to say that with a lot of hard work and dedication, we were able to repair our home and have been back in our home since the 1st of January, 2023. This is a picture that was an actual drone picture that was taken 2 weeks ago. My house is the house with the brown roof, and you can see from the photo that the other homes, my neighbors' homes, are completely gone or they're in complete destruction, and they've not been able to make repairs to their home. You'll also notice the condos, in all those condos, there's no one living in those condos. Nobody's been there for over a year, and many of them do not even have electricity still today. So I count us very fortunate to be where we are, and that God has provided us provided us with strengths, resources, and beautiful reminders of life, such as dolphins and manatees in the canal and the beautiful Florida birds that smile upon us and remind us that we can continue this walk through life even when times get very tough, and that there will be another rainbow around the corner. So ending this presentation, I want to say go Bucks, and from Fort Myers Beach. And this was an actual picture of a sand sculpture of Brutus that someone created a few weeks ago on the beach. So thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and I wish you all the best and the most success in your future.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you so much for telling your story today. We had one question come through. If anyone else who is on the call would like to ask a question to Tara or our team, feel free to utilize the Q&A function. I actually just turned on the chat, so you can use that as well. So someone put in the Q&A talking about faith and your pursuit within the spiritual wellness aspect from there. So if you don't mind kind of talking about how engaging in spiritual wellness has helped you within the grieving process, and what strategies help in that during that time to help you be resilient.
So I think I read, was it a Bible study? It wasn't a Bible study that I went to. It's my history of faith, and maybe that isn't for everyone, but it's what works for me, and what I believe in, and why I believe that I survived. And for me, it's going to church on Sunday and getting that message, and just thinking about each week, what is it? Why do these things happen to us? And what are we being prepared for? And so that's how I viewed it, was from the perspective of being prepared for other challenges, and to help other people. I never blamed it on, why did you do this to us? Other than there's a reason for this, and there's a reason for why this happened, and that I would have the strength by having the faith to be able to keep walking. And that's all I can say, is that sometimes you feel like you can't get up and you have no energy left, and you just have to put one foot in front of the other. If there's nothing else you can do, that's what I would say to do. And eventually the strength will come.
Good. Last question here in the chat. How much did you practice words of affirmation and tributes of gratitude throughout this experience?
I don't know that I practice it. I think that it's something I think I practice gratitude in a different way. Perhaps I definitely every day, constantly, I'm saying thank you, thank you, thank you for allowing me to have clean sheets. Thank you for allowing me to have a bed. Thank you for allowing us to have food. It's amazing how you can be in a situation. Well, let me just say that I started that morning having a house, furniture, 2 cars, degrees, everything that anybody could want. And by 3 o'clock that afternoon, I didn't have any of those things. And now I was faced to getting my food from a food pantry. And many of my neighbors were in the same situation that I was in, and it did not matter how much money you had or how many degrees you had. So I think practicing this gratitude and affirmation is something really important that we should all try to do and get in the habit of doing that.
Beautiful. And I think that's a great way to end for today. Tara, thank you so much for sharing your story and
Thank
answering
you,
these
guys.
questions.